Hi everyone. I feel like it's been a while since I made a video. Hope everyone's doing well. I've got through most of the assignments now, so if you haven't checked your feedback, you can take a look at your feedback for the assignment, and it should be there. I think I've got one or two more to do, so if it's not there, give me a couple days. Um, in the meantime, what I'd like to do today is I'd like to run through a timer because I'm very proud of you guys. Many of you have figured out timers on your own, which is fantastic, but I do want to go through it formally because I know a couple people had questions about it when I was looking in the discussion. So, um, if I want to use a timer, I don't have to make the whole thing from scratch. What I do is I import the simple timer class. Now here's the mistake that my students usually make first time they're using timers is they double click on it down here and they want to go in here and edit the code. And that's not what you want to do. Remember, this is what we call a class, and we use a class as we would use a recipe to make cookies, okay? We don't alter the recipe, we just want to use the recipe to make a cookie, or in this case, a timer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new timer. So I'm going to go to my world, and right here I'm going to put public static, and then I'm going to type a simple timer. So I'm telling the computer what I'm making. I'm making a simple timer. I'm going to give it a name. Let's just call it my timer. And that is going to be equal to a new simple timer object, like that. So this is the way we make a new timer. These two words here you don't have to worry too much about right now. These basically allow us to access the timer from everywhere, and don't worry too much about them right now. So right now I've made a timer, okay? Now, watch what happens if I click. Yeah, nothing, right? I haven't done anything. If I run it, nothing. I haven't done anything with the timer. All I've done is told the computer, hey, I'm going to be using a timer at some point. And the computer says, okay, I'm ready for it. I understand now what my timer is, but you haven't done anything. So let's try adding the timer to the screen. And we'll put it at, say, 200, 200. And suddenly it says, whoa, 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 error. Now this is weird because in the past we've been able to make an actor. Like if I were to make an actor, let's just call it, we'll just make a hero just for fun. And we'll make it a lot of people pick the alligator for the project. Scroll down, people. There's lots more stuff. Turtle. So I'm making a turtle. Turtle's my hero. And if I were to go up here and say I want a new hero to appear on the screen, no problem. I got it. I got it. So why is it that I can't put a timer on the screen, but I can put a? Well, the reason is that a timer isn't an actor. A timer is not something that is going to appear on the screen. It doesn't have an image associated with it, and that's why when I imported it, noticed it went all the way down here. It's not part of the actor class. I can't put it on the screen. Okay, so what is it then? How do I use a timer? Well, the way I use a timer is I use it to control how often something is going to happen. So I'll tell you what, why don't we make the hero move? So we got the hero in the world, we got the timer ready to go. I'm going to go into the hero class and I'm going to make the hero move. So I'm going to do the stuff we've always done where I'm going to take a little bit of a shortcut now that you guys are getting familiar with the code, where I'm going to set the location to get x plus 5 get y. So what that says is set the location of the hero to be whatever the x coordinate is plus 5 and don't change the y coordinate. So what might happen is the turtle is going to move, right? Moves across the screen. Fantastic. But, excuse me, how do I get a timer involved here? What I want to do is when the world is initiated, I would like to start the timer. So the timer is called my timer. So if I type mytimer.mark, think about a race. On your mark, get set, go. This is the equivalent of starting the timer. So as soon as my world is created, I start the timer. Okay? So the timer starts right away. Now what I want to do in the hero is, why don't we say if my timer dot millis elapsed elapsed. There we go. Is greater than 1, let's go 100, then we are going to move. Now, a couple things are going to be wrong. Well, one main thing is going to be wrong. First of all, it says, whoa, 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 what, my timer, what's my timer? Never heard of it before. Because don't forget, we're in the hero class right now. So I have to say, yeah, right, it exists in my world. And now it says, oh, okay, I know what you're talking about, right? Because the timer exists in my world, it doesn't exist in the hero. So now what we're saying here is if the timer, if the number of milliseconds elapsed is greater than 100, we are going to move. Now, every time that happens, what we want to do is reset the timer. So I go myworld.mytimer.mark, and that will restart the timer. So again, it says, if the timer gets over 100 milliseconds, which is 0.1 of a second, we're going to move. And then we're going to restart the timer. We're going to wait for it to happen again. Okay? And this is going to happen over and over and over again. So what we should see is this is going to move, but it's going to be incremental. See that? So I just realized, I didn't do this on purpose, I really wanted to show you guys about timers, but one of you, I think it was you, Marika, you were asking about how to make the Space Invaders kind of move slowly, and you might be seeing your answer now. If I change that to 250 now, see how I get that kind of 80s arcade game style movement? So I can use the timer. Again, I think the key point here is that we're meeting a class that isn't an object that we're putting into the world. It's not an actor. It's a class that we code with, and I can use it in my game. So my timer, I say, okay, my world has a timer. So the world has its own timer. I'm calling it my timer. And when someone starts my world, when someone creates the world, we start the timer. And then in the hero, it says, okay, well, if that timer gets over 250 milliseconds, we're going to move, and then we're going to restart the timer. If we took this line out, by the way, what would happen is it's always over 250, and we wouldn't see that movement. See? Watch. See that? Doesn't work. So we have to remember to restart the timer every time we get to a certain point that we want to get to. With the hero, so for shooting, and many of you figured this out already for the game that you handed in, but if I want to add the ability to shoot, a timer can come in handy there as well, because if let's say I make some code where I say if Greenfoot dot is key down space. So what this rather complicated looking line of code says, oh, did I mess up my brackets? Maybe I did I? Okay, so this says if the timer value is above 250 and if someone hits the space bar, then we're going to allow it to shoot. So if we want to make it shoot, we can do that quickly. We'll make a new subclass of objects and we'll go get something to shoot. So we'll call this our bullet. And if the hero, so when we want to shoot, we just make a new object. So we say add or get world dot add object, and then we want to add a new bullet, and we'll add it at the x and y coordinates of the hero. So if I hit the spacebar, I can shoot. Now let's make the bullet move so they don't just stand there. So I'm going to take set location get x plus 5 and get y like so. So the way I've done it now, if I were to just say this, so I'm just going to cut that out. If I say if Greenfoot down, if space, then it's going to shoot. Okay, like this. And then we get that kind of, that's not great because we're shooting way too fast. And so if we instantiate a timer and get that going, well now, put that code back. this says, wait a minute, it's not just space that has to happen, it's space and 250 milliseconds have to pass by in order to shoot. So now if I run it again, sorry, I just ran into a little glitch there. I got to take this bit of code out because I can't reset the timer twice like that. See, I'm resetting the timer here and I'm resetting it here. So I can't do that. To show you what I want to do, I'm going to take this out for now. So this will illustrate the bullets that I wanted to do. Now this says, okay, the timer has to be above 250 and space has to be down in order to shoot. So now if I run this and hold down the space bar, so it's shooting every 250 milliseconds. If I go back to my code, change this to 1,000. Now I can barely, I shoot really, really slowly. So this is how timers work. You import the simple timer class. You do not ever edit the code in here. You can read it if you want, see how it works for interest, but don't edit it. And then you use the timer by marking it, which means start the timer, and then you use the millis elapsed method. And if you go to timer, if you right click, oh, maybe not. I wanted to see the documentation for it. Oh, here we go. I double click on it, and if you go right here, you can see documentation on a timer. And this will show you all of the things a timer can do. So we talked about mark, and we talked about millis elapsed. That's pretty much everything a timer does right there. But you should get used to that. For example, like if you wanted to import a counter, you've seen counters already, but there's all these other things here. Like there's a weather. I don't know. I don't even really know what we do. Oh, never mind. We're not going to do that. But if you want to see what a class has to offer you, you can always double click and then go to the documentation and you can read about it. It'll show you some examples of how to use it. Just like here, this looks familiar, right? I just did that. So there are lots of instructions. So you've learned about timers, you've learned maybe how to make your Space Invaders move in certain ways, and hopefully that's cleared up some questions for you. I think I'm going to leave it at that for today. Hopefully that maybe gives you some ideas about what to put in your game and how to maybe add some things you didn't have before. And tomorrow I'm going to release some stuff where we're going to talk about some things called arrays. So if you've never heard of them before, it's ARRAYS, and it's going to help us with our Space Invaders game, and you'll see how tomorrow. I'll leave you hanging. So hopefully this answered some of the questions I saw in the discussion. If there's anything else you guys want to know, just fire me an email and I can address that too. But take what you've learned here and see if you can add some functionality to your game. We're going to be continuing on with the Space Invaders game for a while, so you want to make sure it's kept up to date. Okay? Bye, everybody.